Nearly every day, we're confronted with tales of failure, of fear, and of disaster. In Detroit, neighborhoods that are abandoned by industry, by government, and by the residents who've lived on the same street for multiple generations. And in Bangalore in India, garbage piled high along the streets. And in the Bronx, there's a river that flows through a blighted neighborhood where people are so disconnected from nature that they don't even realize that the river exists. And in New Orleans, where Hurricane Katrina nearly wiped neighborhoods off the map. People today live in cities, and cities are dirty, they're polluted, and they're crime-ridden and poverty-stricken. And I don't know the answer to these linked social and environmental problems, and likely you don't either. We also all share in an uncertain future. We don't know when the next hurricane, economic downturn, conflict, or war will overtake us, and nor can we be certain about the changes that we'll experience as a result of climate change. But we do know that we need positive examples of people acting to restore and renew nature in their communities, to reclaim places that seem broken by pollution and neglect. So what are these actions that people are taking to restore broken places? What I'm going to do is walk you through a gallery of some of these actions. In Los Angeles, people are coming out to pick up litter along the partially restored Los Angeles River. And in Iran, volunteers are also picking up litter, but this time along city streets. And in Detroit, neighbors are reclaiming vacant lots by planting trees. And in California, war veterans are also planting trees to do something positive for their community and also to help them to reintegrate in these communities. And in New York City and New Jersey, people are restoring shorelines decimated by Hurricane Sandy. And in South Korea, residents are also coming together to plant trees to restore shorelines that were devastated by Typhoon Rusa. And in Chicago, Bosnia, and South Africa, people who have been displaced by conflict and by war are coming together to cultivate community gardens as a demonstration of resilience, renewal, and reconciliation, and as an attempt to create a more positive legacy. So all of these actions are civic ecology practices, and I'm going to define civic ecology practices for you now. Civic ecology practices are environmental stewardship actions taken by members of a community to create green infrastructure, such as community gardens, to provide ecosystem services like protecting shorelines from erosion and opportunities for learning, and to enhance human and community well-being, especially in cities and after disasters. Now, civic ecology practices are the focus of a field of study that's called civic ecology. And I'm going to define civic ecology for you. Civic ecology is a field of study that draws on multiple disciplines to understand the outcomes for individuals, communities, and ecosystems of civic ecology practices. But it's not just about outcomes. Civic ecology as a field of study takes a systems approach. So it's also about interactions of these civic ecology practices with the communities, government agencies, nonprofit organizations, and ecosystems in which they take place. Now, civic ecology rests on two pillars, two iconic individuals who still today shape our thinking. And one of these pillars is about civic or civic participation, and the other is about conservation or environment or ecology. The first pillar is Alexis de Tocqueville. De Tocqueville was a French man who in the 1830s traveled around the US. And as he traveled, he recorded forms of civic participation. He was very impressed by how people in the US were engaged in voluntary associations, like men who were engaged in farmers' granges and women who were engaged in sewing clubs. And he was also very impressed and recorded how people were so engaged in local governing. So this tradition of civic participation that was recorded nearly 200 years ago by de Tocqueville is still carried on today in civic ecology practices, and not only in the US, but also in countries around the world. The second pillar is Aldo Leopold. And Leopold was a wildlife biologist, but he's really best known for his work with his family to restore an abandoned farm. And this was a farm where the soils had been depleted from years of abuse. And he and his family restored this farm to something more productive. And as he reflected on his work restoring this farm, he conceived of a land ethic. And he described this land ethic as changing the role of Homo sapiens from conqueror of the land community to plain member and citizen of it. And Leopold's land ethic is still carried on today in civic ecology practices. So the work of civic ecology, of people stewarding the land and the community, rests on these two pillars. The work of civic ecology also tells us something that we need to listen to, and that is that humans do not act solely as an external or even an evil force to destroy nature. Rather, we are part of nature. And in coming together to heal our local environments, we also heal our communities and ourselves. This is the message of civic ecology practices emerging out of broken places.